What's up, guys? Welcome back to Ran When Parked. Today we are going to work on the landcruiser. We're going to be doing fuel system for that LS engine in there, pump, lines, filters, the whole deal. But first, I want to set up my new toolbox, which is behind me in the bed of the Honey Badger there. Now that toolbox is pretty heavy, so I'd like to use the backhoe to pick it up out of the truck and put it in the shop. The only problem is the last time I used the backhoe, a steering line blew up for the hydraulic steering system, so it's stuck in my backyard. So the first thing we're going to do today is replace that line on the backhoe so I can use the backhoe to unload the toolbox, so I can set up the toolbox so I can work on the landcruiser or something like that. So let's get to work. What's up, boys? We are all done unloading the toolbox. It is now in the shop, full of tools. I'm pretty amped up about it. I've been waiting on this thing for 2 months. I had to special order it because I really wanted an orange one. And I'm glad I got it in orange. It's the little things, you know? It's the little things that make you happy sometimes. Anyway, so today we're going to be working on Jordy the 40, my 1970, whatever it is, Toyota Land Cruiser I'm building for my wife. And I think I mentioned in the last video that the intent right now is to get it running. I just want to get it to run, make sure the health of the engine is there and all that stuff. So get those systems up and running. So I got a bunch of parts. We're going to start with the fuel system today and some other little things. So big box of Summit just came in, from Summit that is to say. We have filters, adapters, fuel pump, AN line, return line, enough fittings to sink a small ship, another filter, brand new starter, I think exhaust manifold bolts, starter bolts, and some other stuff laying around here. So I think we might have enough parts to get it started. We're also going to go ahead today and delete some of the emission systems that I know are going to go, like air, EGR, rear O2s. That just reminded me, I never bought front O2s. So unless I go out and get front O2s, I'm not going to be able to get this running today. So that's going to be a problem. Other than that, I think we're going to start with the fuel system. I'm going to get that pump mounted in the frame. And then we'll start making hoses and things like that. So let's get after it. All right, guys. So generally speaking, you want your pump to be as close to the fuel source as possible. So you're not using too much energy to try to pull fuel out of the tank. So in a Land Cruiser, the tank is right under the passenger seat, which is like right above me right now. So the closest I can really get to it is probably to put the pump right here. Unfortunately, a byproduct of running the true duals outside the frame rail is, for safety's sake, I really got to put the pump on the inside of the frame rail, keep it away from the exhaust. So I'm going to mount it right here. It's going to tuck in right behind the front drive shaft, which isn't going to be an interference problem. Nothing else should really get in the way right there. I think that's a pretty good spot for it. So fortunately, this pump comes with nice little mounts. So it's pretty easy to mount. Now, I can only get at the bottom 2 holes, which is perfectly fine for now, because this transmission's actually going to have to come out, so I can change out the flex plate and put a new torque converter in it and some other stuff. So I'm not too worried about it. So for now, I'm just going to drill the bottom 2 holes. Later on, I'll mount the tops. Now, when you do this, just make sure you have room. So you got to put a filter behind the pump. So one will sit like, you know, right back here somewhere, something like that. And then you have to put a filter in front of the pump also. So I have a 100 micron filter behind the pump, which is this guy, and then I have a 40 micron filter in front of the pump, which is this guy. So both those things are going to fit no problem. we should be good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing mounted up. I'm gonna put the 2 filters in, and then we're gonna start making lines up to the injectors, and we'll move on from there. All right, guys, so that's all done. We got our filter, 100 micron, 40 micron, all mounted up nice. Everything's clamped in. Now, the next thing we have to do is make the 6AN line going from up there up to the fuel rail. Now, on the fuel rails, a lot of different companies make these adapters for the factory fuel rails to go to 6AN. So I have 2 of them. The factory LS is 3/8 on the intake, or on the feed line, 5/16 on the return line. The older truck intakes, I want to say like 03 or older, have a return. The newer ones are returnless, so that's kind of nice if you want to use one of those. I am using the return. I already had this adapter for the feed. I think I showed in another video. I had it in my random LS parts box. I just bought another one. So this one is going to stay 6AN, the feed. We're going to make an AN hose going down to that filter. The return is just going to be rubber hose because it's not pressurized, so I just have a hose barb adapter on that to go to 5/16 hose. Now, these things are nice because the pressure regulator is built in right there, so you don't have to use like the pressure regulator filter like the Corvettes used, and you don't have to use like an external pressure regulator like I have on that car, for turbo systems and stuff. But fun fact, little tech note here, these are cool for like low-key sleeper turbo systems because these are actually manifold pressure referenced. So you can run this as a boost referenced regulator. I don't know offhand how much boost you could really run. I'm not really sure. They're probably like 22-pound injectors. You'd probably need a little bit more than that, but you could probably sneak like 80-pound injectors under that rail. And you could have a pretty cool little sleeper setup with this. I've never done it, but I've seen other people do it, and that's definitely what it's for. So anyway, next thing we're going to do is make the 6AN line here. We're going to attach it to our system over there. And then I'm just going to run all the 5/16 hose I have off that, route it correctly, and then put it inside the cab. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because currently I have an OEM tank here. This is a replacement one. It's not the original. I got it with a bunch of other parts, but I decided recently that I'm not going to use it. It has some like questionable areas and it's steel. And to be honest with you, the price for plastic remanufactured replacement ones is so low. It's like 250 bucks that I don't see the value in using this. I'm just going to buy a plastic one. And then all the fittings are right on the top of it. It's real easy. So for the time being, to get this thing running, what I'll probably use is my trusty plastic boat fuel cell, which you've probably seen in the video where I got my Willys running. I used it in that just to do some diagnostic work. So we'll use that to get this thing running because the plastic one I want is back ordered. So once I get that, I'll get it all set up, but I'm going to leave some extra hose on there for the time being just because, I want to be able to reach wherever I need to reach with the new fuel system set up. So once we made that hose, we're going to do some emissions delete stuff. We're going to check on some of this wiring and a couple other things in this video. So let's start making hoses. All right, guys, so fuel system is done. Everything's all set in there. It's all routed out back. Just waiting for me to decide what I'm gonna do with the fuel tank, either the plastic boat tank that I have just temporarily, or if the new plastic tank that's actually for the Land Cruiser comes in time. Now, while I wasn't filming, I went ahead and sorted out some of the wiring harness stuff. So I got pretty much everything hooked up here and I got it routed correctly. There's a couple things that I'm gonna have to sort out. One, I'm gonna have to relume some of this stuff, but I kind of saw that coming. Two, there's some things that are just way too long here. Like, for example, the O2 sensor, which would have normally gone way out back somewhere to the front O2. Now it's right here. So I could shorten probably a foot out of that. I got the same situation going on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and cut and splice some of these. But everything else is hooked up and it's pretty sleek. It's not so bad. Again, you know, the MAF sensor is like 10 miles too long. It doesn't need to be like that. But nonetheless, we're pretty much ready to run. Now, as far as the standalone part of this, for now I just routed it, you know, out over here. But what I'm probably going to do is put it like under the steering column and then mount the computer right against the body right here. I don't think anything's going to go there. Obviously the brake booster and master cylinder come through here. Steering column comes through right there. But in between, I can't imagine there'd be anything in the way. I don't need a clutch pedal hole or anything because this is going to be an automatic. So I'll probably mount the computer right there against that wall. And then the fuse block that I built in, fuse and relay block, we'll do the same thing. One's for key on power, one's for the fuel pump. Fuses are for the same stuff. Now I have this thing all labeled, so it should be pretty easy to get it running. So all my flying leads here, you know, fuel pump, battery 12 volt, OBD2, key on 12 volt, starter is right there, the purple wire, always the purple wire on these harnesses. And then I have everything else right at the same side. So it makes sense to run this over to the driver's side because this is all, you know, TAC, OBD2, check engine light, you name it, it's all there. So that's probably going to be one of the next things is kind of getting this not permanently mounted because there's some work I have to do here, which we'll actually talk about later in that area. But, you know, kind of out of the way and at least zip tied there so I can start this thing up. Now, the last thing we're going to do today, because unfortunately I'm not going to be able to get this started, is deal with some of the emissions stuff. So on these manifolds, the older style ones, this is like a 99, you have the EGR that goes in right here. The newer ones, they don't have EGR. So that just has a block off plate in it anyway. Now, the best way to do that, or easiest way to do that maybe, is just these expansion plugs. Now, I've done this a few times. I've done it multiple ways. You could buy the billet things, you know, they're like 20, 30 bucks probably, or you can just buy the expansion plug. It's like $4. This is a 1 3/8, and it just goes right in there. You just put some pressure on it, tighten it up, and then that's the end of that. It'll seal off your EGR, and that'll be the end of it. Now, the second thing is the evap system, which goes up here. Now, I don't think they make expansion plugs that small. One thing I've done before is cut the top of the evap solenoid off and then fill it with silicone and put it back in the hole, but I figured I'd do something a little bit better this time. So I just designed a cap and 3D printed it here. Again, I like orange, obviously. And that's gonna just pop right in just like the evap plug did. So I actually took the evap O-ring back off the solenoid, dropped the bolt down in there, of course, and that's just gonna go in there just like that. And now if I built it right, the factory bolt should go right back in, and that'll be pretty much it. So that's that. Right like that, the emissions is deleted essentially. Everything else is gone. I already parsed all that stuff out of the harness, so it already didn't have evap plugs or the air system plugs or the EGR system plugs or knock sensors are gone. Rear O2s are gone, things like that. So it's really slimmed down. It's gonna look pretty good after I relume it especially. But that's going to be about it for today, guys. I really wanted to get this thing running, but there's just too much stuff missing. I think I mentioned that I forgot to get rear O2s, or front O2s, that is, so that's a problem. And honestly, I could go get them. But the bigger thing that I didn't even realize is that the computer hasn't come back yet. So I sent it out to have it tuned to eliminate all that emission stuff, and it hasn't come back yet. So I have another one that would work, I think, but that has the VATS system on it, which is the security system. So it would only start and run for like 5 seconds anyway, and it would run terrible because I don't have a MAF. So I'm gonna wait till the new computer comes back. I'm gonna go inside and order O2s right now. I'm gonna order a MAF sensor, so that way when we get this thing running, we can actually keep it running for a minute and see how it actually runs and really get an idea of what we're dealing with the engine here. So that's gonna be it for today's episode. Next week, I'll probably have a really quick turnaround on the next episode because all this stuff's gonna be here really soon. So we're gonna get this thing running once and for all. And I have decided that after that, the next step is gonna be getting it driving. And that's going to entail a lot of stuff. We got to get that tranny sorted out. We need brakes. I need to build a steering shaft system and all that stuff out. It's going to be a lot of work, so we're going to start going on that. So go subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell. Tell me what you guys are thinking, and I'll see you guys next time on Ramblin' Parked.